Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and
Waalaikumsalam.
gentlemen. My name is Eko Ridho Alreza. Welcome to the 13th annual online seminar on English Language Teaching 2021 with theme Teaching Revolutionarily, Learning Critically. It is my pleasure to be the master of ceremony for today's online seminar. Before we begin, I would request each one of you to kindly mute your audio. Thank you very much for your cooperation and attention. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to the Honorable Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, the Honorable Director of Norrahmiyamidi University Language Center, the Honorable Dean of Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, the Honorable President of TEFLIN, the Honorable Coordinator of TEFLIN Chapter East Kalimantan, distinguished speakers, committees, guests, colleagues, and participants. Allow me to introduce you to our agenda. Start with opening session, followed by photo session, and then our main session consists of two sessions. The first one is the presentation from two distinguished keynote speakers, Professor Utami Widiati PhD as President of TEFLIN, and Professor Dr. Isi Yuliasri MPD from Universitas Negeri Semarang. The second session is the presentation from three distinguished speakers, Mrs. Diah Sunggimuati PhD from Norrahmiyamidi University, Mrs. Savitri Wahyuni MPD from Sekolah Khusus Olahragawan Internasional Kalimantan Timur, and Mr. Yuta Otake from Mangrove Education, New York. After the second session, we will have door prize session, so please stay tuned and enjoy the presentation. And the last session of our agenda is closing ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to our main event, I would like to invite you to sing our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. While singing our national anthem, the audience is kindly requested to mute the audio. Thank you. Sorry for the trouble. Moving on to our next agenda, I would like to call upon Dr. Iwan Setiawan.
Check.
I would like to call upon Dr. Iwan Setiawan, MPD, to recite the doa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dear all presenters, participants, allow me to read the dua, and hopefully that we can get blessed for our webinar today. To start, mari kita memulai dengan baca Ummul Quran Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Rabbuna arsyil azim. Salatan wassalaman ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Hamdan syakirin, hamdan na'imin. Hamdan yuwafi ni'amah wa yukafi umadzidah. Ya Rabbana, walakal hamdu kama yanbaghi lil jalali wajhikal karim azimi sultanik. Birahmatika wa bifadlika wa bi'aunika wa syafa'atika wa iradatika wa qadratika. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afwa wa sihata wal afiyata wassalamah fid dunya wal akhirah. Ya Allah, ya Ghafur, kami telah memasuki waktu pagi, dan sungguhnya kami mohon kepadamu, ya Allah, agar memperoleh kebaikan dan petunjuk di hari ini. Dengan segala rahmat dan karunia yang telah Engkau limpahkan kepada kami, Kami mohon ampun atas segala hilaf, kelemahan dan kesalahan kami. Ya Rabbana, kami memahami banyaknya kesalahan kami, dan kami pun memahami bahwa ampunan yang Engkau berikan kepada kami jauh lebih besar, ya Rabbi. Karena Engkaulah Sang Maha Pengampun atas segala dosa dan kesalahan. Ya Allah, sungguh kami mohon kepadamu ilmu yang bermanfaat, rizki yang baik, dan amal yang Engkau terima. Ya Allah, ya Ali, pada hari ini kami menyelenggarakan kegiatan sebagai bagian dari kewajiban keilmuan kami, ya Rabbi. Kegiatan 13th Annual Online Seminar on English Language Teaching. Oleh karena itu, ya Rabbi, limpahkanlah rahmat-Mu dan karunia-Mu bagi kami yang mengikuti kegiatan ini. Jadikanlah kegiatan ini sebagai bagian dari amal ibadah kami dan menjadi sarana peningkatan keilmuan kami. Ya Allah, ya Rahim, lancarkanlah kegiatan kami hari ini dan berikanlah kami kemampuan untuk memahami ilmu yang dibagikan sehingga dapat memberi bermanfaat bagi kami. Allahumma ya muqallibal qulub, tsabbit qulubana ala dinika wa ta'atik. Rabbana dhalamna anfusana wa illam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna minal khasirin. Rabbana 'alaika tawakkalna wa ilaika anabna wa ilaikal masir. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim wa tub 'alaina innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina 'adzabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamu ala mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Iwan Setiawan MPD, for reciting the dua. Now, I will invite the Director of Norrahmiyamidi University Language Center, Dr. Norrahmiyamidi, to deliver the welcome speech. To Dr. Norrahmiyamidi, time is yours.
Thank you, Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The Honorable Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, Bapak Profesor Dr. Insinyur Mustafa Agung Sarjono, Dean of Faculty of Education, Bapak Profesor Dr. Haji Muhammad Amir Masruhim MKes, distinguished guests, speakers, moderators, participants, and the organizing committee. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to welcome everybody to the 13th Annual Online Seminar on English Language Teaching 2021, held by Norrahmiyamidi University Language Center in collaboration with Master Program of English Education and TEFLing. Distinguished guests and participants, global changes in the way of production are commonly called Industrial Revolution. We all know that there have been 3 industrial revolutions in the history of mankind, and today we are witnessing the 4th one. The 21st era is characterized by a complete transition to automated digital production, controlled by intelligent system in real time, as well as servicing human needs with the help of artificial intelligence. In line with the condition of the 4th Industrial Revolution, today, knowledge has become predetermined capital and an important condition for the socio-economic development of any country, and thus increase the demand of highly professional specialists. In order to keep up with the society's demand, it is teachers' responsibility to focus on developing student skills and ability. Learner Center is the focus of Education 4.0 in order to make the students become more active and improve their critical thinking toward what they are learning. In addition to the role of teachers in the classroom to help students gain more confidence in using the foreign language they are learning, they have to strike into the world of multimedia technology. The introduction of technology in English language classroom in school has been acclaimed to be a necessary course of action for the improvement of teaching methods. Integrating technology into EFL classroom provides EFL learners ample opportunities to be exposed to the target language in a more authentic and contextualized way, and at the same time to afford them opportunities to use the target language for real-life purposes. In spite of the aforementioned potentials, it is essential to point out that the true effectiveness of technology lies on how it is utilized to support the pedagogy that produces positive learning experiences rather than its mere existence. Factors such as students' characteristics, teachers' characteristics, instructional design, provision of support to both students and teachers, in addition to technological factors, are amongst critical success factors in this new learning environment. In line with the theme of today's seminar, Teaching Revolutionarily, Learning Critically, it is hoped that we could gain more insights on how to improve the way we teach and the way our students learn English as a foreign language. To conclude, I would like to send my greatest appreciation to the presenters today, participants, distinguished guests, the committee for their participation in this seminar. I wish everybody an insightful and fruitful seminar. Thank you very much. I'm giving back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Norrahmiyamidi, for the very warm welcome. Now, it is my honor to invite the Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, Professor Dr. Mustafa Agung Sarjono, to deliver an opening remark. I will give the floor to Professor Dr. Mustafa Agung Sarjono.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear and see me perfectly?
Loud and clearly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, selamat pagi, everyone. Honorables, head and staff of the Center of Languages, Norrahmiyamidi University, Ibu Dr. Norrahmawati, keynote and feature speakers, Professor Utami Widyati PhD, President of TEFLIN, Professor Dr. Isi Yudi Asri, MPD from State University of Semarang, Safitri Wahyuni, MPD from SKOI East Kalimantan, Yuta Otake from Mangrove Education New York, and Dia Subingwati, PhD from Norrahmiyamidi University, moderators and distinguished guest participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great pleasure for Norrahmiyamidi University for having the presence of all of you on this very important event. And therefore, in the first occasion, I would like to express my high appreciation to the head of and staff of the UNMUL Centers of Languages, Master Program of English Language Education, Norrahmiyamidi University and TEFLIN, for collaboratively carrying out this seminar. From the title of the seminar, I might say that the seminar has been conducted annually, and I hope it will be sustainably continued in the future. Before continuing this welcome speech, allow me to extend the apology, deep apology from the Rector of Norrahmiyamidi University, Professor Dr. Mas Jaya, because of other unavoided activities he cannot attend in this opening ceremony, and therefore he asked me as a Vice Rector for the academic affairs to represent him and to give an official speech. Professor Dr. Mas Jaya, send warm regards to all of you. Participants, ladies and gentlemen, just brief information, especially for those who are coming from other universities and institutions, that Norrahmiyamidi University was established in 1962 from only 4 faculties in the beginning of the establishment. Now we already have 13 faculties and a school of graduate programs consisting of around 90 accredited study programs. The total number of active students in those study programs are around 30,000 students with more than 1,000 lecturers, supported by almost similar number of administrative staff. The Umul Center of Languages was grounded in 1973, and it is the first foreign language course services in Samarinda. Norrahmiyamidi University's long-term vision is to become a world-class university, and in order to achieve that, we are trying to optimize our main scientific pattern, tropical rainforest and its environment, to be adopted by all faculties and working units, including the Center of Languages, in order to implement their missions. We have chosen that main scientific pattern because we realize that we are located in the heart of the center of the world's mega biodiversity. And this situation would be as a competitive advantage for us in developing the university, especially to go internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, as already mentioned by the head of the Language Center, teaching revolutionary learning critically is chosen as the theme of this seminar to respond to the current educational situation in general and in English language teaching in particular. It sends a message to both teachers and students to make not small but complete or dramatic changes in the way teachers teach and the student learn. It requires teachers and students to have high adaptability to accommodate changing situations. We are living in this rapidly changing world and entering an era where technology plays significant roles and also creates opportunities for innovation and new mechanisms for teaching and learning. This becomes more intense in the last 2 years with the outbreak of the COVID-19, in which the regular teaching learning process in physical classroom has been disrupted and transformed into the one driven by technology. All educational institutions had to switch to online education so that there is no loss of learning for students and their education continues. Technology is evolving that has the potential to revolutionize teaching and learning, research and information sharing. Anyway, how revolutionary teaching method is, it should aim at more efficient learning and encourage students to learn critically and independently. Therefore, once again, allow me on behalf of the University of Norrahmiyamidi to thank the head and staff of the Center of Languages, Master Program of English Language Education, UNMUL, and Teflin, especially to the organizing committee. UNMUL would like also to thank the speakers who have spent hours of your time to prepare materials and indeed sharing your expertise and experiences related to the theme to all participants. Finally, I do really hope that this seminar will be able not only in exchanging information, but also encouraging participants to find out smart strategies and best solutions for preparing students both at schools and at university to face the 4.0 industrial revolution and 5.0 societal revolution eras, as well as to answer the educational demand of millennial and even alpha generations. Ladies and gentlemen, for not taking the time any longer as requested by the committee, and on behalf of the Rector of Norrahmiyamidi University, allow me to open this online seminar by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I declare this 13th annual online seminar on English language teaching 2021 in Samarinda, December 4th, 2021 is officially opened. Have a useful and fruitful seminar. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to Andy.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mustafa Agung Sarjono, to officially open the 13th annual online seminar on English language teaching 2021. So this is the end for opening session. Now we come to the photo session. Please activate your video camera. Ms. Ame, could you take the station, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Eko. Now, Bapak, Ibu, please turn on your video. Yeah, I'm going to take a picture in 3, 2, 1. Smile. Okay. Please wait for a moment. Okay. One more. Okay, one more. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you so much, Bapak Ibu.
Now we proceed to our main event, first session, which is the presentation with our keynote speakers, Professor Utami Widiati, President of Evelyn, and Professor Dr. Isi Yuliasri, MPD from Universitas Negeri Semarang. This session will be guided by Ms. Setia Aryani, MPD, as a moderator. To Ms. Setia Aryani, MPD, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for our Master of Ceremony. I hope that I'm audible, yeah, for everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you, distinguished speakers, guests, participants, and committee. It's my pleasure to be one of the moderators in the 13th Annual Online Seminar on English Language Teaching 2021. With the theme Teaching Revolutionarily, Learning Critically. My name is Setia Aryani, and I'll be serving as the moderator in the first session with two keynote speakers today, Professor Utami Widiati, PhD, Evelyn President, and Professor Dr. Isi Yuliasri, MPD, from Universitas Negeri Semarang. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items. First, each speaker will present the material in 20 minutes. Second, for the participants, you will have the opportunity to submit your questions at any time during the presentation using the chat feature in this Zoom meeting. Third, a question and answer session will be carried out after presentation by the two keynote speakers. And the last, today's online seminar is also available on UPT Bahasa Universitas Mula Warman YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like now introduce our first keynote speaker, Professor Utami Widiati, PhD. She is currently the Dean of the Faculty of Letters, Universitas Negeri Malang, Indonesia. She earned her undergraduate degree from IKIP Malang in 1989, majoring in English language education, and completed her master's at University of London, UK in 1996, and her doctoral degree in education at Monash University, Australia in 2004. She obtained her professorship in the area of literacy learning in 2009. Her research interests include foreign language literacy, SLA, curriculum and material development, and teacher professional development. She has been active in pre and in-service teacher education and professional development in Indonesia, and has written secondary school English textbooks prescribed by the Indonesian government. She also serves as the president for TEFLIN, the Association for the Teaching of English as a Foreign Language in Indonesia, and a reviewer of several journals in the field of ELT. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Utami Widiati, PhD, to deliver the presentation entitled Maximizing Input Provision for Foreign Language Instruction. Ibu Utami Widiati, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Setia. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, Ibu.
Okay, right, good. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is feeling well today, this morning. The Honorable Top Management of Universitas Mula Warman, represented by the Vice Dean of the Academic Affairs, Professor Mustafa Agung Sarjono. It's a pleasure to meet you here in this virtual forum. It's a kind of reunion for us. and then the Dean of FKIP and top management of Language Center of Universitas Mula Warman, and Professor Isi as another keynote speaker for this academic forum. And also the featured speakers, we have Ibu Dr. Dia, Ibu Safitri, and Mr. Yuta. Ladies and gentlemen, the participants of this online seminar, I think first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for being invited to take part in this annual academic forum held by English Language Education Department, particularly the Language Center. Allow me to share with you, can I share the screen? Let me check. Okay, yes, can you see the slide? Yes?
Yes, Ibu, it's visible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ibu, Bapak, ladies and gentlemen, this morning I would like to talk about how to maximize input provision in foreign language instruction. So this time it seems to me that I am invited to represent TEFLIN. Yeah. Oh, before that, let me also tell you all that we have here with us the coordinator of TEFLIN Kalimantan Timur chapter, Bapak Dr. Sudarman, and Professor Isi is actually also the coordinator of TEFLIN Jawa Tengah chapter. So 3 of TEFLIN board are here with Ibu Bapak. So anyone who has not joined TEFLIN as the National Organization Association for English Teachers in this country, please join us. Try to get the membership, and you will then take participation in improving the quality of English language teaching in Indonesia. So, Ibu Bapak, as you can see from the slide, now we're going to talk about how to maximize input provision in foreign language instruction. I am from actually Universitas Negeri Malang, or UM, and the points of my presentation will be these things: language learning progress, and then principles of input provision, and strategies for maximizing learning. Ibu Bapak, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind us all with this one, the theories proposed by Scrivener in 2011 in his book on learning teaching about language learning progress. So basically, every language learner will go through these 6 stages of learning a foreign language or a new language. The first one, they will go through the ignorance stage. So I think as teachers, we might remember how hard we teach our students. Many of them still ignore us. So we see that perhaps our students are still at the ignorant stage. And then because we realize our job as a language teacher, as a foreign language teacher here, is to provide as much input or as much exposure as possible, then we should not give up. We should still provide our students, learners here with abundant input. Yeah. Why? Because we hope that by having or by providing the input, our students might move away from being ignorant to become somebody who is able to notice that there is something in the language. And after having a lot of exposure, then they will notice. We hope that they will understand. And then we will provide them with more and more practice. And eventually, we expect them to become active users of the language. So, Ibu Bapak, of the 6 stages that we have here, we see that our job as a language teacher will be mostly here in the second stage, that is providing as much input as possible in the hope that our students will be able to notice so that they will also understand what we have been teaching. And by having a lot of practice, they will become active users of the language. So this is actually the final goal of teaching a language. If we can put them all together, the 6 stages, we might clarify, we might categorize them into just 3 phases or 3 categories here. We have the input, we have the learning, and we have the use of the language. So the input here, you see, input might be restricted, might also be authentic, depending on what language proficiency levels our students have. Or we might also make use of other data like course book or teacher explanation or grammar books, any learning resources. We hope that our learners in their mind, they will be able to notice, and then we'll go through a stage of understanding. And then at the end, we expect them to be able to use the language spontaneously, automatically. So Ibu Bapak, in short, the goals of language learning is actually to help to facilitate learners to become active users of the language. And then the users here can actually be classified into 2, whether we focus on developing basic interpersonal communication skills or whether we target cognitive academic language proficiency. So that depends on what kind of teaching context we are in, Ibu Bapak. And in terms of using the language, that means we expect our learners to be able to communicate at the end. The communication here might be context embedded or it might be context reduced. So see that we might have different levels of communication that we expect learners to have in the process of learning the language. And similarly, we might also see that the communication learners face might be cognitively undemanding, or it might also be cognitively demanding. So again, this is actually the final goals of our job as language teachers, helping learners use the language actively. And I would like to remind us all different priorities in developing language skills for different purposes of language teaching. With the basic interpersonal communication skills, we might focus more on listening and speaking activities, and the reading and writing will be put less priority. This is quite different from the cognitive academic language proficiency, whereby we have to put more emphasis on reading, listening, writing, and speaking. So with understanding of different types of priority in teaching English, I hope that as teachers, we can be more realistic in this case, Ibu Bapak. Now, how do we understand input in foreign language learning? What is meant by input actually? Input here is everything that can be heard, everything that can be read by learners in the target language. So if learners can hear English, if learners can read English materials, that means they will get input, they will get the exposure to English. And that means we need to focus more on listening and reading activities. I think the committee should what? And activate this one, because there are participants doing something like this. Yeah. Ada yang coret-coret itu Ibu Bapak, panitianya harusnya menonaktifkan ini biar pesertanya tidak ada yang usil-usil ya. Alright. Right. According to Christian, the essential for acquisition is that acquisition will take place when there is understanding. So no matter whether learners understand all the words or all the structures or not, as long as they understand, we might then consider that our input is going to be processed further by our learners to become intake. So by referring to these 2 points, I think we can then now go on to the principles of input provision. So what should we teachers consider in providing input? The first one is that we have to make sure that our input, our exposure, the exposure that we provide to learners should be comprehensible. It should be easily understood by learners. If we follow Christian's input hypothesis, then we should remember the formula of I+1, not I+2, not I+5, because if it's more than I+1, it's going to, it might go to something frustrating. And this is similar to Vygotsky's concept of zone of proximal development. And then the next principle that we have to follow is that the input has to be meaningful. So it has to mean something. Why? Because if it means something to learners, then they will be able to process the input to become intake. So that might then help learners to change from the short-term memory to become long-term memory. And the next principle that we have to consider is the quantity or the frequency. That means the more input we give, the more exposure we provide, learners will get more frequency of the language being given to them. So to us, what is more important is the quantity, the frequency. And then the next principle is about interactions. In this case, this concept, this principle is still debatable. Why? Because we might still see some experiences whereby English language learners are successful without having a lot of interactions. So what matters is not actually the massive number of interactions, but it's more on the massive amount of input or the abundant input instead of the number of interactions. And the last one is variety. So we need to provide a balanced provision of restricted and authentic, from form focus to fluency or function focus, and so on. The implications for effective foreign language instruction is that we need to increase comprehensibility and meaningfulness of the input. Then we might need to increase interactions. And of course, we also need to increase thinking and study skills. Why? Because by having study skills, by having thinking skills, then we expect our learners to become more independent and more autonomous. And that's why working on thinking and study skills is something that seems to be advisory for us teachers. In some circumstances, when necessary, we might also be allowed to use students' first language for more comprehensibility. But this is not something that is suggested. So it's only a kind of emergency exit. If we cannot explain this in English, then we might use the first learner's first language in this case. Okay, Ibu Bapak, I'm going to share some strategies that might be used for different levels of learners with English proficiency. Of course, I'm not going to do some modeling activities because this one is not a workshop activity. Yeah, this is a seminar. This is a sharing session, just to remind you or to refresh again your perhaps your already practice of doing this from day to day. Yeah, like using more visual aids and gestures. This is particularly for the very early stage of learning the language, whereby one-way communication might be dominant. So in this case, in this phase, teacher-centered activities are something that will that are more useful for us and more realistic. Or perhaps we need to slow speech to emphasize keywords, yeah? And remember that we should not force oral production at this stage. Why? Because learners are still in the silent period, in the silent stage of their learning. And then writing will be more in the form of copying or using interactive dialogue journals or encouraging shared readings or oral readings, yeah, readings together in the classroom, just to make the learning more fun in this case. And then this one, Ibu Bapa, using total physical response techniques. So perhaps maximizing the use of classroom English is going to be something useful for learners at the very beginning of their learning stage. And then repetitions. Yeah, I remember that repetition is very powerful for beginners. Yeah, so by having nursery rhymes, for example, postman Pat likes the dog. Postman Pat likes the sheep. So we increase different vocabulary, but basically we just focus on one sentence pattern, and that sentence pattern is postman Pat as a subject, and then likes as the verb, and then we have different objects. And if this can be repeated from time to time, then the students will then enjoy how English rhythm is, and a lot of fun can be obtained from the classrooms. Yeah. And then the next one, early production stage, Ibu Bapa, the strategies that we might use will cover things like engaging students in linguistic guessing games, doing role-playing activities, presenting open-ended sentences, and many more. I think we might then have some more workshops with the Lembaga Bahasa, ya, Language Center of Unmul, to do some modeling activities with all those teaching strategies. And then for more advanced stage of learners, we might conduct group discussions, or we might have our students fill out forms and applications, or we might assign them to write composition. We might use music, TV, video, radio with class activities, and many more. However, Ibu Bapa, as we experience the COVID-19 pandemic, yeah, something that was unprecedented at the very beginning in our teaching context, we now have to face the reality that classroom has been brought home and teaching has been moved to virtual, online, remote, and we have changed our life words, and we might experience some loss of scaffold as in the face-to-face classroom interactions. So this is something that we really miss, the loss of scaffolding for foreign language learners in our context. And because of that, basically, we need something more, Ibu Bapa, with our students. That is the learner agency. So if we also can work on developing learner agency, perhaps the very difficult challenges, situations that we have been experiencing with the COVID-19 pandemic might be minimized. So according to Brown and Lee, the principles for developing learner agency will be like this one. We encourage learners to do language, not to talk about language. And then we allow learners' voice to develop so that they can express their opinions, their feelings, their thoughts, and also their identity. And we also need to promote perceptual learning and affordances. So everything will become more possible for our learners. And then we also need to guide them to develop self-regulating strategies. In a quite similar way, Lee in 2020 also highlighted the principles for developing learner agency, that we need to move away from teaching the target language to teaching literacy skills, to teaching something related to the 21st century skills, like critical thinking as one of the components. Then we need to move away from teaching the target culture to making lessons which are culturally relevant to students, from focusing on providing language input to promoting interaction in the language, from attending to final products to students as producers of the language, and from preparing for exams to conducting more engaging assessments to foster critical thinking. So in short, I would like to remind us all again with what I have been sharing with you this morning, that basically the input provision needs to meet the basic principles of comprehensibility, meaningfulness, frequency, and then if it's possible, it has to be put in interactions. So that means that effective language instruction refers to input comprehensibility, meaningful interactions, as well as input frequency. I have also shared with you, ladies and gentlemen, Ibu Bapak, some possible teaching strategies that comprise proficiency-related activities to offer revolutionary instruction. Why? Because we need to adjust the teaching activities, the teaching strategies here to our learners' proficiency level. So that's why we can help them to receive comprehensible input. And one more important thing is that learners of all ages need to learn to take more control of their own learning. This is where learning or learner agency takes place. And if learners have the agency in learning, we can expect to have critical thinking to develop. I think that's it, Ibu Setia. Thank you very much, Ibu Bapak, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Uttami Widiati, PhD, for providing this very interesting and insightful presentation. Yeah, as we know that teachers or educators should provide maximum input to share with students to become active users of language depending on language proficiency level of our students, by also considering these 5 basic principles, comprehensible, meaningful, quantity or frequency, interaction, and also variety. And Bapak Ibu, once again, if you want to ask questions for our keynote speakers today, feel free to post the question, Bapak Ibu, on the chat box. Okay, thank you very much once again, Ibu Uttami Widiati. We will continue this session by inviting our second keynote speaker. Allow me to read the profile of Professor Dr. Isi Yuliasri MPD from Universitas Negeri Semarang. Professor Dr. Isi Yuliasri Yulia Sri MPD was born in Tegal, 13 July 1962. She earned her undergraduate degree from IKIP Semarang and master degree from Universitas Negeri Semarang, majoring in English education. She completed her doctoral degree at Universitas 11 Maret, majoring in translation studies. She has been a lecturer at Universitas Negeri Semarang since 1990. She had experience of teaching Bahasa Indonesia in Queensland, Australia for 1 year in 1993, participated in sandwich program at University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia in 2009, participated in international research collaboration and disseminated the research findings at University of Tasmania, Australia in 2015. She was awarded 2 conference grants, Lee Foundation Singapore in 1995 and International Association for Translation and Intercultural Studies, Belfast, North Ireland, UK in 2012. In 2010, she won an award for the Best Presenter for Doctoral Dissertation in Linguistics from DP2M Dikti. In 2013, she was nominated and selected by the US Embassy in Jakarta in the 6th International Visitor Leadership Program, or IVLP, from Department of State's US government. With 274 researchers from 250 countries, she contributed to the writing project of Alice in a World of Wonderlands, published in Newcastle, USA, and launched in New York in September 2015. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our second keynote speaker today, Professor Dr. Isi Yulia Sri MPD, for delivering the presentation entitled Stimulating Critical Thinking in Undergraduate Translation Classes. Okay, for Ibu Isi Yulia Sri, time is yours.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank to Universitas Mula Warman, particularly the Language Center, for inviting me to speak in this very important webinar. And I would like to also thank to Professor Dr. Mustafa Agung Sarjono, the Vice Rector of Academic Affairs of Universitas Mula Warman, and also the organizing committee, and Dr. Norrahmiyamidi as the head of the Language Center, and also all the participants and ladies and gentlemen. Now I'd like to share my screen. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yes, Ibu.
Yes. Thank you. So today I'm going to talk about stimulating critical thinking in undergraduate translation class. So first of all, I'd like to inform you the points of my talk today. So I'm going to talk about the complexity of translation as a skill, and also the importance of critical learning in translation class, and the learning methods or tasks that are useful in the class, and also the assessment. So let's talk about the complexity of translation. Translation as a skill is a very complex skill because it involves reading comprehension of the source language text and writing of the target language text. And translating from the mother tongue to foreign language is assumed to be more difficult because, you know, in the case of EFL learning in Indonesia, for example, when we have to translate from Indonesian to English, it is more difficult because then the students will have to express the message of the source language in Indonesian into English, which is not their language, which is a foreign language. So here the difficulty would involve a lot of things because the student will be demanded to provide good translation quality which involves accurate or sufficient rendering of the meaning or the message of the source text, and also how to provide acceptable or natural translation, also a readable one. Besides, they will have to present the message in the accurate writing in the target language or in English with appropriate register and language variety. So it is a very complex skill which is more difficult than just writing. So, especially when we talk about translation, because a good translator should possess good translation competence. And according to PACTE, that translation competence consists of 6 sub-competence. First is the bilingual sub-competence. So bilingualism here is the mastery of the 2 languages involved in the translation. So in the case of English Indonesian or Indonesian English translation, the translators or student translators should master 2 languages very well. And then also extra linguistic sub-competence, which also includes their cultural knowledge about the 2 languages. And then also the knowledge about translation, and also instrumental sub-competence, which involves their ability of using any useful resources, useful tools that can help them in completing their translation tasks. And then the next is the strategic sub-competence. This is the ability of students in solving the problems of translation. And this is considered as the most important sub-competence among all the 6 sub-competence. And the last sub-competence is the psychophysiological components, which include the endurance, the physical, mental endurance of translators in completing or in accomplishing their translation task. Now, what about our undergraduate EFL students? Do they possess this competence? So it is, I think, our job as the lecturer in the class of translation to develop the students' translation competence. Now let's see what is the connection between critical thinking and translation. Is critical thinking crucial in translating? Do undergraduate EFL students translation course need this skill to enable them to produce good quality translation? A research study reveals that critical thinking was a significant predictor of students' translation scores. And also this is in line with PACTE's conclusion that strategic competence is the most crucial. Now, what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and or evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. Critical thinking is a type of thinking pattern that requires people to be reflective and pay attention to decision making, which is a very crucial part in the translating task. And critical thinking allows people to deduct with more logic to process sophisticated information and look at various sides of an issue so they can produce more solid conclusion. So critical thinking helps the students understand text differently in the case of translating. And it also provides more angles and perspectives upon the same material. Now, for example, this is the example of decision-making in translation. For example, when a student translator is posed with a word baseball, they will have to decide how to translate the word baseball. But then they have to consider what type of text is it, and who the audience are. So, and then they will have to decide whether they will take adaptation technique and change the word baseball into kasti, or maybe into bekel, bola bekel, or borrowing by using borrowing technique, by translating the word baseball into baseball or bisbol when it's naturalized into Indonesian spelling. So I always pose this question to my students in translation class. How would you translate baseball? In what cases you are allowed to change to translate with baseball into kasti, and in what case are you not allowed to change the words baseball into kasti? So then they will have to think. So here, like, if the word baseball only appears in like a comic book or a children's story, with the audience maybe from the 3T areas, from the remote areas of Indonesia, maybe when the translators assume that students in the remote areas might not know baseball, but they are familiar with the word kasti. So maybe they can change baseball into kasti for the fluency of their reading, for the fluency of their understanding of the content of the comic books. But in the case of other text type, for example, in academic text, for students of sports, for example, you cannot adapt the word baseball into kasti, of course, because they are two different things. So that's a very easy or simple example where a translator or a student translator should make the right decision of translating. Another complex thing in decision making is, for example, when translating a sensitive text containing taboos, containing different ideology, containing erotism, etc. They will have to think about, they will have to consider about the acceptability to the target audience. How acceptable is this sensitive text? Should they change it? Should they censor it? Should they manipulate it? Or is it okay to maintain it? So these are the questions that a student translator has to consider when they are making a decision how to translate. And these need careful analysis and judgment to come to the right decision making in translating. Now, how to stimulate critical thinking in translation class? What learning method, what task, and what assessment, what kind of assessment? Now let's see the learning methods that may stimulate students' critical thinking in translation class. I limit in this 20 minutes presentation, I will limit only in 3 learning methods, the cooperative or collaborative learning, and then the task-based learning and project-based learning. Now, talking about cooperative or collaborative learning, we may use some techniques of cooperative learning because there are about 90 structure or techniques of cooperative learning. But I took in my research, for example, jigsaw, think, pair, share, and think, pair solo in my translation class. You know, I believe, and some researchers also believe, that by working in a team, students are exposed to or need to be open-minded to different translation versions to then come to an agreed decision of which combination of translation version is the best, or of which translation version is the best when they are working in team. And in my previous research, with the cooperative learning, students got inputs from their teammates, and then they became aware of their mistakes. Now, what about task-based learning? Liu suggests that teachers design various types of tasks. It could be from sentence translation, text translation, and also translation comparison and evaluation. Similarities and differences in source language and target language, cultural tradition and syntactic expression are compared, yeah, considering students' ability to analyze the two languages in grammar and logic. Or alternatively, students can be exposed to different versions of translation from one source text. For example, the novel Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. In Indonesia, in Indonesian language, we have 5 or 6 different versions of translation since 1970 something. Yeah, so we can then ask the students to see the differences between these 5 different translations. Take only, for example, one unit of the novel. And according to research by Alenezi, tangible development of students' translation competence as well as bilingual competence through task-based learning method was proven. And Davis translation tasks should be based on clear learning outcomes. Therefore, selecting appropriate text for students to develop certain translation competencies is a significant step. Now, okay, because of the time, I will just go. So this is the cycles of the task-based learning in translation, starting with the pre-task, task, reporting, analysis, revision, and reflection. Now with the project-based learning. What happens in Canada, I think would be similar to what happens here. But in Canada, it has been researched. Yeah? And in Canada, employers complain about student when they graduated, they cannot really do translation in practice because they think that the university training is too theoretical. And here, according to Bear and Kobe, we may fail to produce translators who are capable of the flexibility, teamwork, and problem solving, not to mention the creativity and independent thinking, because we do not give them enough, like hands-on practice. And that's why Kirali proposed an empowerment approach to translator education by proposing authentic project work, which is the collaborative undertaking of complete translation projects for real clients. So it's like a semi-professional level of autonomy and expertise through authentic. Okay, now what about the assessment? Assessment can be regarded as a tool that aids learning rather than as a mere grading system. And in translation, assessment should not only in the form of appraising a translation, but rather of performing a variety of tasks to assess not only the end product, but also the process. Now I will very quickly go to what my experience in my translation class have. Yeah. So I applied the cooperative learning technique. I also asked the student in my task to analyze the manipulations that exist in the Indonesian translation of short stories like The Happy Prince and The Gift of the Magi, and then create their own versions of translation. Another task is translating a text using various translation techniques, then compare it with translation by Google Translate, for example. And then students are given some text and their translations by Google Translate, and then they are asked to edit, like post-editing of the translations using various translation techniques. And then students also asked to translate a text using screen recording tool or application like Camtasia, and to see the process, how they perform the translation tasks besides the product of translation. Another task is translating this is the project, translating Indonesian poems into English to create a book of compilation of translated poems or short story. So this is what I have with the screen recording. I really hope this will work. Yeah, this is from one of my students doing the pretest in with screen recording. So okay, so by using this screen recording, and then they upload in the YouTube, and then we can see how the students perform the translation, how they delete some words and then they come back to another. So here he pauses and then he continued, but you know, he left some word missing, and then he get back to the, you know, the missing word. So this actually, this kind of data is also important for us as a researcher to research like the process of translation, which is you know, done by the student. Yeah, and we might compare it with how the process is like with the professional translator. Now, this is the project that my students have. Yeah, the translation of poems. So here they create the cover. They even have the table of content, and they asked me to give the foreword. And then, you know, it's interesting and nice to see that at the end the student provide their photos and the say. Yeah, everyone have the say. The whole of translators. To get your dream, you have to run. If you can't, then walk. If you can't, then crawl, but don't stop moving, and so on. And all the students in the class, they have their own like words or quotes, which is interesting to see, you know, because with this emergency remote learning, it seems like we are emotionally distant from the students, but by, you know, by looking at what they write, it's really nice, because then we have like a emotional touch again with the students. So I think that's all for today. Thank you. Thank you, Ibu.
Thank you, Professor Isi Yuliasri, MPD, for the presentation. Okay, so what I can conclude here, that translation competence, especially strategic competence, is the most crucial. And in this case, critical thinking plays an important skill that helps students understand text differently. And we also need to consider the most suitable method to stimulate critical thinking skills in translation, like what Ibu mentioned before, cooperative or collaborative learning, task-based learning, and project-based learning. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Isi, for the presentation. Okay, now we move to the question and answer session, and there are only 2 questions, and we only accommodate 2 questions in this session. So I will address the first question for Ibu Utami Widiati. The question is from Ibu Yani Astuti from SDN 1 Bontang. The question is how to deliver a strategic language learning input for English young learners in elementary school, especially in this pandemic situation, in order to boost the use of the language by the students. Okay, Ibu Utami Widiati.
Thank you, Bu Setia. Ibu Yani, remember once again, we have to have a look at the stages of learners in this case. If they're still at the beginning level, of course, we're not supposed to expect them to produce the language or to use the language actively. So what we can then do in the classrooms will be providing as much exposure as possible, perhaps with the very young learners. The use of rhymes, the use of poems will be more engaging to them. I remember the books by Dr. Seuss. Yeah, it's very popular. He is very popular among young learners because of the rhyming activities that he have. For example, Ibu, Bapak, something that we have to remember is that when students learn a foreign language or a new language, basically they are learning the vocabulary, they are learning the grammar. So we need to give them more vocabulary and more grammar exposure. With the vocabulary, of course, we can have very simple expressions with young learners, yeah? Something like one fish. One fish, two fish, three fish. So with the word a fish, for example, we can add numbers, and then the numbers can increase from 1 to 20 or from 20 to 30, something like that. And then we can also change the fish here with other animals. Yeah. So we have to have a look at how we can combine words to become phrases. And then after that, we might change the number to become colors. And we might say things like red fish, blue fish, yellow fish. So many vocabulary can be then acquired by learners. Or if not, perhaps, Ibu Bapak, we have to remember the power of repetitions in helping learners to move away from the stage of being ignorant to the stage of being ready. So basically, we want to target the readiness of learners to learn English in this case. And that's why phonemic awareness activities or listening comprehension activities will be more advisable for us to do in the classroom. I think we have collections of nursery rhymes, yeah, something like Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. So with this kind of exposure input, we expect learners to love English, to learn English. And of course, during this pandemic situation, we might also have recorded materials for us to invite parents, for example, to play the recorded materials at home with their children. And then after that, we might check it through Zoom interactions or whatever platforms that you have with your students. I think that might answer the question, Ibu Setia, yeah?
Okay, thank you, Ibu Utami Widiati, for the answers. And I will address the second question. I would like to apologize, ya Bapak Ibu, because we cannot accommodate more questions in this session. So the second question for Ibu Isi Yuliasri will be the question from Bapak Indra. Do you have some tips for proofreading in translation? I find it difficult to do it in my job with limited amount of time. Much appreciated. Okay, Ibu Isi.
Well, that's the problem of everybody, time. Right, Ibu Tami?
Yes, sure.
Problem, time. Including translator, even a professional translator, and especially a professional translator because they have like overloaded work sometimes. With very strict deadline. Now, well, it depends on which direction the translation is. When the direction of translation is from English to Indonesian, I think proofreading would be quicker because it only has to do with the content or the message. But when it comes to Indonesian English direction, which is you have to crack your English writing because writing is not our language. So maybe you can use in terms of language accuracy, you can use like grammar checker, like Grammarly, or you can also use, I got from Pak Gumawang Jati, virtual writing tutor. The name is virtual writing tutor. It's a kind of not application, because you don't have to download everything. So it's a website or something that, you know, when you click this and then you copy paste your text, and then they will give input they will give you feedback of the grammar accuracy, and they will even give you score of your writing. So it helps. So you can use different kind of helps from the applications from the websites, that might make your work a bit easier and faster. But of course, the final proofreading would be by yourself, because human proofreader is better, I think.
And then machine is machine, yeah.
Yeah. They don't have,
Machine.
if the context is not there, sometimes
Machine is machine.
yeah, that's the answer.
Okay, Ibu Isi Yuliasri, thank you very much for the question. Well, actually, there are still many questions posted on this chat box, but
Bu Satya, excuse me,
yes.
Bu Satya, perhaps
Yes,
I
Ibu.
need to highlight, because I'm afraid that there might have been some kinds of misunderstanding about how we view translation in this case. So it happens that we have different topics. Yeah, Prof. Isi was delivering something related to translation. Yeah,
yes.
But me is more about providing input for young learners, for beginners, something like that. So Ibu Bapak, for us teaching at elementary schools, for example, or junior high schools or secondary high schools, perhaps translation is not suggested. Yeah.
I would
So
there's translation in high school, Ibu.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm talking about the participants, because they mentioned that they practice doing this in the classroom and the students get bored. Yeah. So this is something that I want to highlight, not addressing your speech, no. But in this case, I would like to highlight, Ibu Bapak, for us teaching at beginning learners of English, translation is not the suggested technique, and that's why your students get bored, because they don't know English yet. How can we ask them to translate? Tadi sudah disampaikan, harus ada mastery of the two languages in order to be able to translate. So please.
Yeah, that's why my title, this is for undergraduate students.
Yeah, but you see in the chat box, many questions are addressed to you related to high school students, which is not fair, I think. Yeah, this is something that I want to clarify. Okay, so Ibu Bapak, once again, we need to know the context, and of course for young learners, because translation is cognitively demanding. This is very hard. And of course, we are not supposed to do this with
this is the work of
primaries.
an expert.
Yes. We need to master the two languages first. So Ibu Bapak, try to use classroom English, simple English, comprehensible English, not translating from English to Indonesian in teaching di SD, SMP maupun SMA begitu ya. Saya khawatir ini karena banyak yang komentar saya pakai translation kok anak-anak enggak mau dan they get bored and they are lazy ya, mesti enggak ngerti itu. Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much Ibu Utami and Ibu Isi Yuliasri. Okay, well, Bapak Ibu, the question at the beginning of the presentation, Ibu Isi Yuliasri has already addressed the presentation entitled Stimulating Critical Thinking in Undergraduate Translation class, Bapak Ibu. So it doesn't refer to the EYL actually, Bapak Ibu. Okay, well, thank you very much once again, Ibu Isi and also Ibu Utami for the insightful presentation. And we move to our second session, with a featured speech session that will be led by Ms. Amelia Catriona. Okay, so are you ready, Ms. Amelia? Okay. Okay, time is yours, Ms. Amedia.
Okay, test. Okay, so okay. Hi everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the second session of the 13th annual online seminar. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Amidia Katriona Maharia, and I'm going to be the moderator for the second session in this seminar. There will be 3 wonderful speakers. Each speaker will be given 20 minutes to the presentation, and in the last session, we will have a question and answer section, just like in the keynote speaker session. And there will be also the prize at the end of the session. Let us now begin with the first speaker. Our first speaker is Ms. Dia Sunggingwati, PhD from Universitas Mula Warman. Ms. Dia Sunggingwati, PhD, obtained her Doctor of Philosophy degree from University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia. She is currently a lecturer at the English Department of Mula Warman University Samarinda, East Borneo, Indonesia. She was the Dean Assistant of Academic Affairs Faculty of Cultural Studies of Mula Warman University from 2009 to 2015. She was coordinator of English Master Program, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education of Mula Warman University from 2016 to 2020. Her current research interests are ELT and professional development. In addition, she actively joins academic and professional trainings and workshops since 2009. She has participated in national and international conferences. Without further ado, Ms. Dia, are you ready?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Ame.
Yes.
Can I share my
I would like to welcome Ms. Dia to deliver the presentation.
Thank you, Ame. Can I share screen?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. Is it clear, Ame? Can you see my screen and my voice? Can you hear?
Yeah, yes, Ibu.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. In this occasion, I would like to share some knowledge about self-questioning skills to improve reading comprehension.
Good morning.
And there are 4 major topics that I would like to share here. The first one is the importance of questioning. Second, self-questioning, how to implement the self-questioning, and issues related implementation of self-questioning. As we know that questioning in the classroom usually refers to the questions asked by the teachers, and we know that questioning strategies can not only use for learning content, but also to guide students to think critically and analytically, leading to a deep level of understanding. And this argument for practice is that teachers act as a model in terms of questioning skills. So students are expected to imitate teachers' questions to help them to build up their own questioning skills. However, research has suggested that in reading lesson, especially English as a foreign language, that teachers use the questions provided in the textbooks rather than generate questions themselves. So in addition, that such questions are normally simple factual questions that rarely require higher order of thinking. So as a consequence, students might imitate and generate similar level of low questions. So the questions in the classroom, research about questioning strategies suggests that little questions as well as yes/no questions should be used to encourage students to be involved in talk, or the teacher should use this opportunity to lead students into higher levels of thinking by asking more inferential questions. Teachers asking questions of students about what they have read is one of the common techniques for teaching or to improve reading comprehension. And students usually respond to these questions. So questions can be used to make students or readers aware of the important points in the reading passage, to check the comprehension, to extend the context, and then to link the passage of previous knowledge and experience to improve comprehension. And it can be used as an assessment about whether students understand what they have already read. Different level of thinking, such as questions that require interpretation, application, analysis, evaluation, and creation, can be described using taxonomies. And I think everyone is familiar with Bloom taxonomies categories, different level of thinking, focusing on the cognitive domain. And this taxonomy is well structured and readily converted into instructional goals, becoming a available tool for identifying the intended outcomes of the program. So here, this is the original terms, which consists of knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, which is in a new terms. We have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. This is slightly different from the original terms and the new terms of Bloom taxonomy. So the taxonomy consists of 6 levels, from remember until creating as the highest level. And it can also be used as a guidance for teachers to vary their questions in their classroom interactions. Well, now in the current situations, we do not have any classroom, but I think some schools started to have their classroom setting rather than online one. Okay, now slightly a little bit, but the questioning. Now we move on about what I mean self-questioning here. So self-questioning is a continuum process in which readers formulate questions based on the information provided in the passage. Okay, and then also when asking questions for themselves, readers show their interest about the topic, and then this will guide them, their thinking while reading. So the readers, too many distractions anyway. And the readers formulate the questions based on the basis of clues found on the passage, including searching and combining information they find in the passage. Okay, so this is a slightly definition of self-questioning, and self-questioning can be seen from different interpretive framework. Is from cognitive and metacognitive process. It is a guide to practice for internalizing information and performing higher levels of thinking. And it is a metacognitive process because through self-questioning, readers are able to monitor and evaluate their cognitive activities in order to understand or to check their understanding or comprehension. Okay, from active processing, it learns that readers become more actively engaged with and therefore independently comprehend the passage when formulating questions. Still about the framework of self-questioning, that it improves readers' awareness, because this makes readers aware of part of the passage that they do not understand, and that is concentrating on key ideas of the passage and linking these ideas with their prior knowledge. Reader response theories also that reading is perceived as a transaction between reader and a passage. So readers may ask questions about the passage to express their uncertainty about their understanding. And from narrative understanding, self-questioning is a vital component in reading process in the perspective of narrative understanding, since readers ask questions to themselves about sequence events or stories to make meaning of the passage. This is more particularly on the narrative text. So, research of self-questioning has indicated that self-questioning has the potential to improve educational outcomes for students at all levels of schoolings. So for this strategy, it can be applied from kindergarten until tertiary education, including pre-service teachers, in-service teachers, and adult learners. And research of self-questioning has revealed that the efficacy of self-questioning in the first language, so it's not only in the foreign language or second language, but self-questioning has been popular and beneficial in the first language context from kindergarten to college level, including pre-service teachers and adult learners. However, limited research has been dedicated to investigate the benefits of self-questioning in the second or foreign language context. So, what I would like to share next is about the implementation of self-questioning, or how the teachers apply or teach or train their students to have self-questioning strategies. Here I outline about 7 topics, and including evaluation, but actually the main topics has only 6 topics. And these 7 topics should be taught embedded in the classroom activities. But you are allowed to, if you have a particular session or allocated time, to implement these self-questioning strategies. To be in more details about the implementation is that like this, that we have topic introducing different levels of questions based on Bloom's taxonomy, and then we have highlighting keywords, and then the second one is about introducing self-questioning, the third one self-questioning, the fourth topic about self-questioning with summarizing. So prior self-questioning is, after self-questioning is given, then summarizing about a passage, especially only for a paragraph, should be taught first after self-questioning topic is given. And then the fifth topic is about, we practice self-questioning in pairs, and then self-questioning in a group. So 2 pairs are combined in a group of 4 members. And finally, at the end, we could do some sort of evaluation about the implementation. To be in a more detail about this implementation, I'd like to share here. This is the quite detailed sequence about what should be done step by step for each session of the implementation. The first one, the key ideas here of all of this process is that introduction about different levels of question based on Bloom taxonomy, especially for the higher level of questions, because this is quite rare, perhaps quite rare to be implemented in the classroom, as the teachers and the students are familiar with low level of questions. And then, so this practice should be done thoroughly and continuously in order to allow students to have or to allow them to conduct or to apply the self-questioning strategy. So this is session 1, and then this is the session 2, brainstorming about self-questioning, and then the teachers need to explain about what self-questioning is, and then provides opportunities for students to practice self-questioning. In the third session, here we introduce, here the teachers need to model about how to do self-questioning and then allow the students to practice the self-questioning strategy. These implementations focusing on the more practice for the students to have more opportunities. And then here, the fourth topic is about self-questioning with summarizing. So after reviewing self-questioning, and then the students are familiar with what self-questioning is, they have ample of practice to do self-questioning. We, as a teacher, introduce the summarizing, and then the teachers also model this summarizing. In the fifth session, here we have self-questioning in pairs. This also provides students to minimize their not confidence about the self-questioning, as they are rare to do this. So by self-questioning in pairs, allow them to be more confident about how to do the self-questioning. And here we do also practice peer reciprocal questioning using guide cards. So this topic should be given model by the teachers, providing the providing examples in the cards of different level of questions, also different level of self-questioning. And here, the self-questioning in a group that we've slightly review about reciprocal questioning, and then the teacher need to give a model of self-questioning and group reciprocal questioning, and provide more opportunities for students to practice using reciprocal questioning using guide cards. And finally, that the students are expected to provide to make self-questioning without guide cards, or more independent in making self-questioning. So this is evaluation sort of wrap up or what is important or key points for each implementation. However, this implementation has also some challenges. So there are several issues to be considered for the implementation of self-questioning in the foreign language context, particularly because this study was conducted in secondary level. The first one is about teachers' knowledge and confidence. So here, the teachers should master the steps, and they are familiar with the self-questioning strategy, and more importantly is about the higher level of questions from Bloom's taxonomy. The abilities of the students also influence the effectiveness of the implementation here, because some students are quite confident and some students are not, and some students are happy with individual work, but some are happy with group work. The nature of the classroom in the senior high school, in the secondary level, we have like social science and natural science classes. And this, if we teach from these two classes, different classes, we can see that slightly different about the implementation is that the natural class students tend to be individual ones. So they are not seems okay. They were not happy with the implementation of self-questioning when they need to work in a group. However, in social class, they are very happy in a group work when they need to practice that in a group. However, contrary to the natural class science, and then the individual work for the self-questioning, the students in the social science, it's quite rare to participate, or they just keep silent in the classroom. And it is known that something rare or we are not accustomed to, and then something new that we have to do, that it is not easy. So teaching self-questioning, I can say that it is quite complex because it also needs sufficient time for implementation. And this is much more difficult, particularly when this strategy is given to students only part of the project or the plan that the teachers teach in the classroom. So neglecting one of these issues in teaching self-questioning skills in the reading in a foreign language context might results different findings from this investigation. Yeah, I think that's all my share about the implementation of self-questioning. Now, I give back the session to moderator, Mbak Ame. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Miss. Thank you, Miss Dia Songgingwati. Were very insightful presentation. Now we're going to move to the next speaker, Miss. Yeah. So we will, Bapak, Ibu, for the question and answer section. I'm going to remind you again that we're going to listen the 3 speakers, and then after that we're going to have the question and answer section. Thank you. Now we will continue the session by inviting our second speaker, Ms. Safitri Wahyuni, MPD, from SKO. Ms. Safitri Wahyuni, MPD, is an English teacher at SKOI, Sekolah Olahragawan Internasional in East Kalimantan. She earned her undergraduate degree and master degree from Universitas Mula Warman, majoring in English education. She followed Fulbright DAI International Leaders in Education program in New York, USA in 2015. She also followed English Digital and Research Development program in Adelaide, Australia in 2013. She received several awards and grants, Professional Development Grants 2019 by Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, ECA, at the U.S. Department and IREX, Global Teacher Exchange 2018 by Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, ECA, of the U.S. Department and IREX. Ms. Safitri Wahyuni is also an author. She has published some of her work since 2018 with the title Teacher Keluar Negeri Gratis, Ilmu Naik Drastis, and also the recent book that is published, 76 Fun Activities for Online Learning, Referensi Pembelajaran Bahasa Inggris. Okay, Miss Safitri Wahyuni, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, okay. I'm going to, okay, without further ado, time is yours, Miss Safitri. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss. Okay, let me share my screen first. Sorry, wait. Sorry, wait for a moment. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Still loading. Yeah. Okay, so good morning, Bapak dan Ibu. Good morning, right? Okay, so today I would like to share some of my experience in using digital tools with my students. That I'm sure that the use of these digital tools can spark the students' critical thinking. So I will have some points to be talked about today, like background and then the apps or the tools, including the activities, and then the wrap up, and the last one, question and answer. Probably, as the moderator said, it will be conducted after the third speaker deliver his presentation as well. Okay, but before that, I would like to ask you to take a look at this. Okay, probably I will share the link in the chat box. Wait a minute. So okay, there's a link in the chat box. Please click it and see where the link leads you. Yeah. Okay, some people are coming here. Okay, so I will show you again what in the link is. Okay, we have more than 15 participants here. So here we have some pictures of apps. I believe that some of you are familiar with this app, or maybe all of you are familiar with these apps. And what you have to do is please just write down with the sticky note here, yeah, about what you have done with these apps. For example, this is Padlet. You can use the sticky note. I use this for example, brainstorming. Yeah, of course, for your student, yeah. Just put here. Stop. Okay, you don't need to, what is it, draw something or do anything else. Just write something about your experience using this app. Just pick the app that you have used, or all, it's okay. Use the sticky note here. If you are using your mobile phone, the icon is below, I think, yeah. Okay, nice. Thank you. One people already wrote. Okay, I'm still waiting. No drawing, actually. Okay, Canva for practicing group writing. Nice. Okay, I'm still waiting. One more minute. Okay, if you are not familiar with this, okay, this Padlet, Canva, Jamboard. This one is Google, what is it? Google Docs, Google Slide, board games, and this is Bitmoji. Okay, I use Canva. Yeah, how did you use Canva? Could you please elaborate a little more? Okay, this one Canva. Mostly people here use Canva. Okay, I use Bitmoji for fun classroom slide presentation. Nice. I will help you to move your sticky note here. I usually use Canva for presentation. Okay, nice. Design poster, edit photo, writing task, write caption. This one must be Canva, right? Okay, I usually use Padlet for task example introducing ourselves at class 10. Okay, thank you, teacher. Teacher of SMA. I use Word. Okay, Jamboard, brainstorming, Word. Okay, nice. Thank you, board game, Word. Padlet, again, wall magazine, Canva, easy to use. Okay, so we have two favorite apps here, Canva and Padlet. Nice. I use Canva for team working. Okay, thank you so much. You can do it. You can do this activity later on. Okay, another board game for what is it? Spacking. Okay. Okay, so let me go back to the previous slide. Okay, still loading. Okay, can you see my screen, Miss Moderator?
Yes, now I can see your screen, Miss.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so well, talking about the digital tools in relating with the critical thinking, as we know that English is what is it? A kind of lesson that unique. It has 4 skills that have to be mastered by the students. So I try to to use certain digital tools to integrate the skills, and also why the use of digital tools in this case, as we know that the students will feel more motivated, and also the class will be more engaging if we use digital tools. But of course, we have to consider the pedagogy first. Yeah, so technology will be the second, but pedagogy will be the first. We have to remember that. So what I'd like to share here is some kind of activities, tasks, and projects, and also research. This is not the students doing the research, but some of the activities have been researched. Yeah. So as what you have done in the previous activity in Jamboard. So these are the apps that I would like to show you today. Yeah, that can involve students, that can motivate students to learn English, especially in online situation, because of the pandemic is still in our life right now. So we will have Padlet, Google Jamboard, Canva, Google Slide, Google Docs, board games, and also Bitmoji. So we start from Padlet. Yeah, okay, this is one of the powerful apps. I think everybody is already familiar with this, Padlet. So Padlet is a virtual notice board. It also can be used to collaborate, share links, pictures, record, and then anything else. So these are the examples of Padlets that have been used by my students. The first one is they record their voice describing the plans that that are around their house. Yeah. So maybe I can click this. Okay. So there are some recordings. You can see that. Wait. Wait, I have to stop share first. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So it's Padlet. Actually, there are so many things that we can do in Padlet. Yeah, I have around 24 or 25 activities in Padlet. We can use for sentence phrasing like this as well, or we can use for group discussion by dividing the screen into 3 or 4 groups based on our needs. Yeah, and also in Padlet we can ask our students to draw anything. Yeah, and they love it. Yeah. Okay. Why can I? Sorry, the slide cannot move. Wait for a second. Sepertinya sinyal. Sebentar ya, Miss. Oke. So let me go back to my screen again. I hope it works right now. Yeah, okay. Okay, next app is Google Jamboard. One of the activities that we can use with Google Jamboard is the one that we had previously, brainstorming. Yeah, but there are a lot of things that we can do with Google Jamboard, like what is it, collaboration. So the students can collaborate each other, or the students can have an individual project in Jamboard. Like this, for example, this is puzzle in Jamboard. Actually, I have to click each of this, what is it, display, but I'm afraid that the signal is not good enough here, yeah. But I will try to describe. And this one is a kind of reading log. So the student is assigned a task at home to read, and then they try to describe what books they have read from the title, from the characters, and also another things. Yeah. Okay, this is Canva. So Canva is also popular with some features like for presentation and collaboration, but Canva is also useful for another things like brochure, infographic, poster, etc. So let me show you what my students have done with Canva. Okay, they have made name map, peta nama, yeah. So this is a kind of writing prompt before they write. They make this, yeah. So they make mind map with pictures, yeah. They were free to choose the pictures, yeah. And then for the next mind map is about the bucket list, yeah. Okay, and then also this is a pictorial story. So we can give our students freedom to choose what kind of story they want to tell through pictures that is using Canva. Okay, these are also the examples of pictorial story. Okay, and this one is a digital comic. My 9 graders created this, but before they produce the final products, the digital comic, they have to create mind map first, and then storyboard, and and then the last one is this one, yeah. Okay, let me show you. So there were some stages that my students had to face. The first one is mind map. Okay, before writing their own digital story or digital comics. Okay. Wait. Okay, sorry. Okay, after mind map, they had to create storyboard. So it's also Canva as the main tools. And the last one is this digital comic. Okay, another thing that my students had was infographics. So the theme at the time was animals. So before they created this final product, they search for some information. They did research, yeah, from internet, from books, if they had the books about animals, and then they try to put the description in infographics forms. Okay, The next one is Google Docs. Yeah, this is also a good tools. Yeah, from Google. It is free, so we can use for collaborative writing. Yes, and okay, the next one is Bitmoji virtual classroom. I believe that some of participants today know about this because they have followed my webinar and workshop for many times about this. Yeah, so Bitmoji virtual classroom is a kind of combination from Bitmoji, the app of avatar or our personalized emoji, with Google Slides. Yeah, so teachers can create Bitmoji virtual classroom to make the online class, or maybe hybrid or PTMT is also fine, more engaging and interesting. And also in Bitmoji virtual classroom, we can do some hyperlinks. We can put video, we can put another materials like ebooks or any other links like learning apps, Padlet, and many other things. Yeah, and also we can assign our students to create Bitmoji virtual classroom in the form like virtual library, like this one is COVID-19 library. And if we click this and if we click the book, it will be directed to some files, other files like audiobook or ebooks. Yeah. Also, we can assign our students to make singing room or another thing like pets or virtual trip. Yeah, this is really interesting. Yeah, actually. Okay, the next one is board games. Yeah, as we know that if we talk about board games, maybe the things that come in our mind is like snake and ladder, ular tangga, monopoly, etc. Yeah, but actually there's so many board games that can help our students to improve their skills. Yeah. Okay, like this one is Taboo. Probably some of you know this. Yeah, Taboo is a kind of speaking games. Yeah, that we have to describe this main word. Let's say this is cake. Is the main word without saying these 5 words. So these 5 words are the taboo words. Yeah. So this is really fun for our students. Yeah. So they will try to think hard, how can I describe cake without saying birthday, anniversary, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry? But the question is, how can we do taboo game in online setting? We can do that. Yeah, just use Zoom meeting or Google Meet and find the taboo cards in internet. You will find so many of them. Yeah. Okay, the next one is box of lies. This is nice, box of lies. Actually, what you have to do with your students is just provide some things, and divide them into some groups. So one student have to describe the thing. Yeah, but the goal not to be guessed correctly. Yeah, what the student has to do is just describe in 2 ways. He or she has to choose whether he is describing truly or lies. Yeah, maybe you can use maybe you can check it later on in Facebook or in YouTube. There's so many instruction or guidance about this kind of game. Yeah. Another question arises, how can we do this kind of game in online setting? You can do that using Zoom or Google Meet, yeah, because I have tried it several times and it was so fun. Okay, so to conclude some of the activities I have mentioned before, so they're based on my experience. The activities were student-centered, and there was also some project, right, like Canva, making infographics, digital comic, mind map, etc. And also the activities involve these 4 C's, yeah, communication, collaboration, creativity, and of course critical thinking, and it lots from HOTS. It can be done synchronous or asynchronous. It is engaging, easy and simple, and the apps are totally free. And some notes can be seen here for teachers. The activities can be some teaching references. Teachers can be learning designer too, can be more creative, can improve their ICT skills. And for students will have engaging activities, then they can design too. They can be more creative and improve their ICT skills, and of course they will get great learning experience, yeah, with some online tools. Yeah, okay, so I think that's all for my sharing today. So the activities I took from this, my recent book, 76 Fun Activities for Online Learning. 76, so it's still more, yeah. And probably for participant or participants, I'm not sure yet, who are lucky today will get this book in the door prize session. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you so much. I will go give it back to Miss Moderator. Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, Miss Hafiz. Great. Thank you, Ms. Safitri, for the presentation. Okay, I'm going to summary what Ms. Dia and Ms. Safitri already presented. Ms. Dia already do the presentations about teaching of self-questioning skills to improve reading comprehensions, and it will guide. It will give guidance to think critically, and we can use it as by using the Bloom's taxonomy and 7 topics from the self-questioning, from the highlighting keywords to summarizing the objectives, underlining important points, and this will students to also learn or practice their self-questioning. And for Ms. Safitri already serves us with very insightful applications. I'm sure that it will be really helpful for us here as a teacher in this online situations, because there are so many apps that we can use, and it also student centers and covers communication, collaborations, creativity, critical thinking, and we can use it online and offline. So it's really great. Yeah, thank you so much, Miss Dia and also Miss Safitri. Maybe we can open the question and answer session for Miss Dia and Miss Safitri. Okay. There are some questions from the Zoom to Miss Dia. Okay. Let me read the question. Yeah, it is from Ibu Listiani, Miss. Yes. She said that she already tried to make questions. She already tried to ask their students of grade 9 to make simple comics in group, and they get the information from internet relating to report text. And then these students already try to make questions by themselves and construct their questions to be dialogues in their comics. Miss Listiani asked about what Miss Diaz think about this in order to improve the ability to make questions.
Okay, yes, Ibu, you have already practiced is really good already, because you already tried to implement self-questioning to your students. And you can improve that implementation into more on a higher level of thinking, I think. So I do appreciate what you have done with this strategy, because it's very beneficial. And then the strategy is still used in a science field actually until 2000 and 2001. This strategy is still applicable, and then it's been applied into, rather than in language field, but it is much more on science education, because it improves not only reading but also improve about their critical thinking. So I do appreciate what you have done, and I encourage you to spend more time on this practice, giving students more opportunities to practice, and particularly the higher level one, which is much perhaps difficult to implementation. Yeah, thank you. That's it, Ame.
Thank you so much, Miss Dia. Okay, now it's the question from for Miss Safitri from Ibrahimovic. He asked about, are those apps available for PC?
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Of course,
okay.
yes.
So it is available for PC, and also yeah, when we use it in PC and from mobile phone.
We can use the apps from both devices.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Safitri. Okay.
Welcome.
The questions again for Miss Dia. This is from Mr. Nurjadid from Salatiga Central Java. He said, I think the most important problem in English understanding is the students of lack of vocabulary. So my questions, how to enhance the vocabulary based on your view? Ms. Dia?
Okay, thank you, Pak Jadid, about for the questions about vocabulary, improve vocabulary, although that my topic was focused on strategy. But I think vocabulary can improve. There are many ways of vocabulary can be improved. Perhaps some the experts here can share later. The first one is about you need to have first reading. Reading is the one of the ways to improve vocabulary, because by reading a lot different genres, then the students can enrich their vocabulary. And in the classroom, I think we need to direct their students. For example, once I got a opportunity to attend a seminar about improve vocabulary, is that teachers can ask the students to memorize every day at least about for 10 to 15 vocabularies that it based on knowledge about your students, the ability of your students, and then from that 10 or 15 vocabularies that the students are not familiar with, then you need to ask them to make them into a sentences. I think this will encourage students to improve their vocabulary, because the problems understanding reading is not only vocabulary, but grammar also included. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Dia. Now, it's the question for Miss Safitri from Miss Etik Wahyuni. With Safitri, the activities you share us are great. How do you make all the students join the class? Do you make like posters telling that your class will be fun to attract your students to join your class? My problem here is about the students' participation. Ms. Safitri, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the great question, Bu. Yeah, so talking about participation, especially in pandemic situation like this, we cannot hope that 100% our students attend to our class, right? So it happens everywhere, I think, not only in Samarinda, Balikpapan, but everywhere. Yeah. So if you ask me, how can I, ask my students to join my class? Yeah, I just try to be so nice to my students. Start from they come into my school. Yeah. So just try to build the rapport with the student first. So if your students like you, but I believe not all the students like me, because some of them don't like English probably. Yeah. They will say what you say them to do. Yeah. Like for example, I ask them to create a digital story, digital comic. They will do that. Yeah. And maybe that is the most important thing, that we have to build good relationship first with our students. And talking about the use the apps, before we ask the students, oh, you have to use Padlet, you have to use this, we have to tell our students first how to use that. Just give the tutorial. If you have time, you can make your own tutorial. But if you don't have time, just share the links from YouTube. There are a lot of resources from YouTube about how to use certain apps. I think that's all from me. I hope it can answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Afitri. I think that we still can. If participants have another questions, you may ask through the chat, through the Zoom chat, or you can raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay, I think that Miss Annie has something to say. Please, Miss Annie.
Okay, Bapak Ibu, we've got sudden information, yeah, Bapak Ibu, that we would like to apologize that Mr. Yuta Otake, yeah, cannot do the presentation live today. So the presentation will be a recorded video, and we will inform the link soon. Yeah, Bapak Ibu. And for this session, because we still have time before the prize session, so I will ask to the keynote speakers first, Ibu Utami. Is it possible if Ibu to answer the other question, Ibu Utami, because there is one question from the participant.
All right, all right.
Okay,
All right,
yeah,
all right.
this is one question for Ibu Utami. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Would you describe more about the concept of ZDP and the
CPD,
pro-scaffolding?
CPD.
Oh, CPD. Okay.
CPD, Zone of Proximal Development.
And the pro-scaffolding by Vygotsky. Yeah, Ibu.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a question from Pak Venture. Yeah, so I cannot now refuse answering or responding to this question, Pak Venture. We used to be classmates, Ibu Setia, when we are taking our master's degree in Institute of Education, University of London. Yeah, so Pak Venture is testing me regarding the concept of Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. All right, so Ibu Bapak, basically Vygotsky is very popular with the social cognitive theory, in the sense that there seems to be a gap between the current competence of the students and the proximal zone that we can actually extend them to achieve. So this is similar to the concepts of I+1, yeah, input plus one, that was popularized by Crescent in second language acquisition. So Ibu Bapak remember that our students have their current competence, say that their existing competence is at this level. Our materials, our teaching resources might be very boring if we also provide them with activities or tasks or materials which are of their level. So in order to make them enjoy learning, in order to make them feel challenged, then we need to give activities, materials, or tasks which will help them go beyond their current level of competence. And this going beyond the current competence is called as the zone, and the zone of proximal development here will be different from one learner to another. So the concepts of variety is really, really necessary in language teaching, because we have to realize that our students have a lot of differences. They have differences in terms of cognitive learning styles. They have differences in terms of age, for example. They have differences in terms of motivation. They have differences in terms of aptitude. And there are so many various factors affecting second or foreign language acquisition. So if we realize that there are individual differences in learners, then we will become wiser English teachers, because we need to adjust our teaching materials, our activities, our tasks here to the students, depending on their aspects related to characteristics. For example, if most of our students are field independent learners, because we are teaching students of IPA, students of IPA, then usually based on psychology, students of IPA are more field independent. Then we need to provide activities which will encourage the activities like analyzing, or reading, or things related to analytical thinking. But when we teach, for example, IPS or Bahasa students, then usually IPS or Bahasa students will be more field-dependent types of personality. Then, of course, we will have more performances in teaching. We'll have more top-down activities of teaching instead of analyzing or analytical types of language learning. Yes, I think that's it. Hopefully, Pak Fenche will be happy to hear my answer. Just to remind the lecture that we had from Institute of Education when we are learning primary education. So Vygotsky and Piaget, with the two names that were very popular at that time in our classes, Ibu Satya.
Thank you very much, Ibu Utami Widiati, for the answers. Okay, we still have time, for one more question. Is it possible if Ibu Isi to answer the question? One more question.
I will try.
Yeah. Okay, from Bapak Didit Yulianto, SMKN 1 Jepara. The question is, what is the simple strategy of teaching translation that can appeal students' interests, especially for SMK students?
Well, as Ibu Utami and I myself mentioned before, actually what I presented was intended for undergraduate students in the university, because, you know, even in the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned the complexity of translation as a skill, because this is an integrated skill. It needs mature mastery of grammar and then vocabulary and also culture. and other things like encyclopedic knowledge and all sort of competence that are needed, which is under the one competence called translation competence. So this is actually the competence of an expert. That's why Prof. Utami and myself would not suggest translations to be used in even high school. Even high school, you know, senior high school, I would not suggest. So this is ideally this is for even senior year of undergraduate program, like maybe the 7th semester students or the 8th semester student, because even with in UNES with translation being given to these 5th and 6th semester student, I still think that they do not possess enough competence to cope with the complexity of the translating task. Of course, they do the translation task, but the result is not so satisfactory. So because the prerequisite competence is so high with translation, so I would not suggest that translation is used in teaching at school levels, yeah, not even in high school level. But if we talk about the strategies, I think as I suggested before, when we teach translation, it should be something that would stimulate their critical thinking, their analysis, because they will have to analyze the source text of how to translate, what the problems are, the anticipated problems in translating, how to solve the problem, to then finally produce the best or the good quality translation. So this is a very complex skill actually. So I don't even feel satisfied with the result of my teaching, because for me ideally it should be there in the 7th or 8th semester, but I think the English department has problem in, you know, accommodating, you know, in allocating courses in the curriculum, because now the curriculum, you know, we have to accommodate curriculum like for literacy, for NBKM, or for a lot of things. Yeah, so then it's put in the 5th and 6th semester, because in the 7th semester they have the teaching practicum, they have the community service, and you know, so yeah, it's difficult actually to make it there in an ideal semester. But for me, ideally, this should be in the, you know, 7th, 8th semester, so students have maturity in their language skills first, and also their cultural understanding of the, you know, the understanding of the culture, language culture in the English, yeah, like how English speaking community realize you know, their feelings in words, in expressions which are different from, you know, from Indonesian. So that's why we cannot translate like word for word. We have to translate expressions. Yeah, we have to use appropriate expressions in the target language. So we need maturity of the language on the part of the student translator. That's why, well, I do my best in teaching translation, but I still feel unsatisfied myself with the outcomes actually. Although, yeah, I feel nice when I see the students' collection of translation of poems and collection of translation of short stories, yeah, which is nice. But I can see a lot of errors there, but well, they're developing anyway.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Isi Yuliasri, for the answers. Okay, next session will be, yeah, this is the most awaited session too, yeah, for the door prize session. So in this session, we will select 6 lucky participants to get books, yeah, for free. If you are able to answer the questions from keynote speakers and also from the featured speakers. We have already collected some questions, but the other question will be directly given by the speakers. Okay, and also another information that we will also upload Yuta's presentation on UPT Bahasa Universitas Mula Warman YouTube in a very short time. We would like once again apologize for any inconvenience Bapak Ibu, because there was a mismatch time Indonesian and between Indonesian and
US.
Yes. Okay, so once again we apologize Bapak Ibu. Okay, now we come to the door prize session. So I'll take over it. Okay, so I will invite Ibu Utami Widiati first to give a question for our participants.
Okay. All right, Ibu Bapak, let me invite you to the position of learners studying English for the very first time. So please do not put yourself at this current level. So imagine that you're just beginning of learning English, and you see that while you start learning English, you will need a lot of input, right? And the inputs here in our context, in the Indonesian context, particularly in the areas whereby classroom will become the most dominant place for students to learn, then teachers' English or teachers' language will become the main source of input. Am I right in saying this? Yes, I think, because imagine students of Nunukan, students of Kabupaten Nunukan, or students of Tanah Tidung, or wherever in the remote areas of Indonesia, whereby they don't have access to English, teachers will become the source of language input. And that's why our job as a language teacher is actually to provide as much input as possible to our learners. And remember that input has been defined as anything that can be heard, anything that can be read in the target language. So anything that can be heard in English, anything that can be read in English will become input for our students. So just imagine in the classroom, the teacher's English will become input for the students, okay? So teacher talk will be useful input for the students. Can you please mention some principles of input that should be given to the students? Perhaps only mentioning 2 will be enough to get the door prize.
Okay, so the questions from Ibu Utami Widiati, at least the participants can mention 2 basic principles of input. Okay, so you can press the raise hand button, then I will call your name.
I see,
Okay, Ibu
Dwi Titi, Maisaro.
Okay, please, Ibu.
The input should be comprehensible and authentic. These 2 principles should be there when the teacher gives input to the students.
Right. Perhaps what you mean by authentic will be something like meaningful, So comprehensible and meaningful. So Ibu Bapak, your language, your English will become teacher talk, and that teacher talk is actually the input, the useful input for your students. So that's correct. It has to be comprehensible. That means it has to be easily understood by our students, and it has to be meaningful. Not necessarily authentic in the sense that you're not going to present newspaper to junior high school students, for example. Jakarta Post, no, that's too difficult. Okay, yes, you get 1 book Is that correct, Bu Setia?
Yes, yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Where are you from, by the way, Bu Dwi Titi? Where do you teach? Where do you teach?
I'm master student of Mulawarman University.
Okay. Are you teaching somewhere? No? Are you a teacher?
Just
No.
for private lesson.
Okay.
Not
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Ibu Dwi Titi Maisaro. You are the first lucky participant, yeah, to get free books and the door prize. And thank you for the question once again, Ibu Utami. Okay, so I will invite the next speakers, yeah, to ask the question orally. Ibu Diah Sunggingwati. Hello, Ibu
Okay,
Diah.
thank you, Bu Setia. Okay, participants, I think I have very simple questions. I've presented that there are several issues or things need to be considered for the implementation of self-questioning. Could you mention one of the issue? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, issue. Okay, participants, please press the raise hand button. Yes.
Hello,
Ibu
Ibu.
Puspa.
Can I try?
Hello.
Hello,
Ibu
yes.
Puspa Dewi, yeah. Ibu
Yes, can
Puspa
I
Dewi.
try? One of
Okay.
the issue is from the teacher. His or her knowledge and also self-confidence.
Okay, Ibu Diah Sunggingwati, what do you think? Yes.
Correct. Okay.
Correct. Okay. Yeah.
Selamat Ibu ya. So you will get a prize.
Benar.
Door prize ya from the
Door
Balai
prize,
Bahasa.
yeah,
Yeah, congratulations Ibu.
Congratulations, Ibu. Okay, well, the next question. This is actually the written question, but once again, I would like to invite Ibu Isi if Ibu Isi wants to ask the question directly.
All right.
Okay.
Which do you like me to ask? The easy one or the more difficult one?
The more difficult one, Ibu.
The easy one. The easy one.
All right. Well, I mentioned six sub-competencies of translation competence. Among the six, I mentioned the six: bilingual subcompetence, extralinguistic, knowledge about translation, and then instrumental subcompetence, and then strategic subcompetence, and then psychophysiological subcompetence. Which one is related to the decision making or critical thinking, or which is the most crucial in translation? With among the six subcompetence I mentioned before.
Okay, participants. Or should I answer the question? So I'll get the free book. Ah, Mr. Septimus. Yeah. Mr. Septimus, please.
Microphone is still
on. Please unmute yourself, Mr. Septimus. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. The answer is strategic subcompetence is the most crucial.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's the correct answer, yeah, Mr. Septimus. And thank you, Ibu Isi, for the question. Okay, next I will invite Ibu Safitri Wahyuni. Yeah, Ibu Safitri Wahyuni. Would you like to give the question directly?
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so my question is very easy if you paid attention to my presentation, of course. So please mention with Canva what kinds of projects that our students can do. Okay, anyone?
Okay, Ibu Indah Safitri. Yeah. Ibu Indah Safitri, yes.
Making comics.
Sorry?
Making comics.
Oh, making comics. Okay.
That is one.
Ibu
Another,
Safitri.
another one. I need more than one.
Oh, more than one example. Yeah, more than one answer.
Making, telling a story based on the picture. Telling a story based on the picture.
Okay, I beg your pardon, Ibu Indah Safitri. Could you repeat your answers?
Making comics and telling a story based on a picture.
Okay, good. You got the book. This one. Can you see the book?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Congratulations,
thank you
Ibu
very much.
Safitri. Also, we have the same name.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Indah Safitri, for the answer, and Ibu Safitri Wahyuni for asking the questions. Well, we still have two more questions actually. Okay, so I will invite once again Ibu Utami probably to ask question. Hello?
To me again.
Yes, Ibu Utami again.
To me again. All right. What should I read? What should I ask? I think they should be related to our organization, yeah, the Association for the Teaching of English as a Foreign Language in Indonesia. So, Ibu Bapak, I would like to ask whether you know the president of TEFLIN for the period of 2021 to 2024.
Okay.
It's a matter of reading the flyer actually, yeah?
Okay, Ibu Linda Rusmini, yeah, please answer the question. Hello, Ibu Linda. Hello, Ibu Linda, please unmute yourself, Ibu. Halo, Ibu Linda.
Tadi kepencet, maaf.
Oh, oke, ya. Oh, Ibu Nur Hayati. Okay, so I will invite Ibu Nur Hayati from SMA N8.
Okay, I think Assalamualaikum Mbak Utami.
Waalaikumsalam Mbak Nur. Rezeki silaturahim ya.
I think
Yes.
the president is the one who asked the question.
And my next question will be this one. My next question will be, are you the member of TEFLIN, Ibu Nur?
Oh, sure, I am.
Okay,
Yes, I'm a
great.
member.
Yes, and then you need to invite your MGMP members, yeah, to become members of TEFLIN. Thank you. Great,
Thank you,
Nur.
Mbak Ut. Stay healthy, Mbak Ut.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations ya Ibu Nur Hayati for getting the books for free ya in this door prize session. Okay, we have one more
And
question.
there is an
and
answer here, Ibu. There is an answer in the chat box. Professor Joko Nurkamto. So that means TEFLIN is not popular yet among English teachers in Indonesia. So we have to really work hard to make TEFLIN more popular among teachers, yeah, English teachers. Please work with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Utami. Okay, one more question. Okay, I will invite again, ya, Ibu Isi, ya, the keynote speaker.
All right. So
to ask question. Yeah.
an easier one, yeah.
The easier.
So I mentioned 3 techniques in my presentation that may stimulate critical thinking in student in translation class. So just mention one of the 3 techniques or 3 methods, the 3 learning methods that I mentioned.
Okay.
Project-based learning.
Sorry, what's your name? Oh,
Husin Mutarok from
Bapak Maulana.
Project-based learning, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Miss Isi.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
There are 3 cooperative or collaborative learning, and then task-based learning, and then project-based learning. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Ibu Isi, and congratulations, for Bapak Maulana Hussein.
Yes.
And once again, congratulations for the 6 lucky participants who get free books and the door prize. The committee will contact you later, yeah. Okay, this is the end of the door prize session, and thank you very much for the speakers and also the active participation of the participants. Hopefully that all of you can get insightful information from this presentation. And I'll give it back to the Master of Ceremony. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. So this is the end of our main agenda. I will invite the coordinator of Magister of English Education, Dr. Aridah MA, to deliver the closing remark. I will give the floor to Dr. Aridah MA.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our seminar today, but allow me to give some point that I have highlight from this seminar. So first, on behalf of the seminar committee, it is a very pleasure for me to deliver a very short closing remark on this completion of the seminar, the 13th annual online seminar on English language teaching 2021, conducted by UPT Bahasa in collaboration with the Master Program of English Education, Effective Universitas Mula Warman, and TEFLIN, the Association of Teachers of English in Indonesia. We can say that this virtual seminar had addressed the need of the lecturer, teachers, and also students for self-development as well as professional development. I would like to highlight some important points that we get from our discussion today. First, collaboration, which involve 3 institutions, UPT Bahasa, Master Program of English Education Mula Warman University, and TEFLIN, has strengthened the cooperation of the 3 institutions, and we hope that this collaboration will be extended in the future, not only in the form of seminar, but can also in the form of other events. Second, the material of the presentation, which were delivered from different speakers, have enriched our knowledge and insights concerning English language teaching in Indonesia, especially in East Kalimantan. The third, the presenters and participants that achieved more than 200 participants today. I noted exactly 256 attend 32. This indicated that they were very enthusiastic in joining this seminar. Thank you for your enthusiastic participation today. And last but not the least, the organizing committee, including MC, operators, and also moderators who have worked very hard in making this seminar successful. This event will not be conducted without your support. Before I close my speech, on behalf of the seminar committee, I would like also to apologize for all inconveniences, including the technical problem which made this conference start late. And also another apology for the absence of one of the our speakers today because of misunderstanding about the time zone. So he was not able to come with us, but he will send the video recording for the presentation, and we will send to the participants later after we get it from him. Okay, so this is also one of our apology for you all. Okay, I think this is my short remark, and thank you for your participation. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Farida MA, to officially close the 13th annual online seminar on English language teaching 2021. We would like to express our gratitude to all speakers for sharing their valuable thought, knowledge, and experience. We also would like to give our biggest appreciation for all participants at the seminar today for leadership take form in the chat. Last but not least, we thank our guests, colleagues, and committees for their participation today. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See ya in the next
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Ibu semuanya.
Thank you so much.
Bapak Ibu.
Bapak Ibu mohon untuk mengisi feedback formnya ya yang ada di kolom chat untuk masukan kami, dan nanti untuk e-sertifikat mohon ditunggu ya. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu.
Bye.
Terima kasih Bu Tami, Bu Isi.
Sama-sama Bu Isi ketemu di sini. Bu Eka dari Jember. Aduh, saya lihat Bu Eka. Mbak Wening tadi belum sempat nyapa ya.
Sehat Mbak Ut.
Alhamdulillah. Saya lihat Mbak Wening ini.
Muncul.